The alarms screamed through Infinity Station, their metallic howl echoing off chrome and glass. Dr. Seraphina Kai sprinted down the main corridor, heart pounding with a rhythm to match the emergency klaxon. She gripped her stolen cube, crackling with arcs of blue energy, tighter as she rounded the corner into Lab Delta 9. Inside, chaos reigned. Assistants in white jumpsuits shouted over the cascade of warning lights. The portal machine, Seraphina's invention, hummed, a rippling disk of shimmering air spinning at its heart. As she keyed in the shutdown sequence, a hand seized her arm. "Seraphina, the anomaly's destabilizing. You have to get out." She whirled to see Milo, her loyal engineer and closest friend. His voice shook, but his blue eyes burned with the thrill of discovery. "If we close it now," Seraphina gasped, "we lose everything we've worked for. And if we don't—" A brilliant flash seared the room white. The swirl of energy warped, expanding like a blooming flower. Glass shattered. Milo was flung across the room. Seraphina dug in her heels, squinting through the maelstrom. Data screens snapped with impossible readings, negative time values, spatial echoes, infinite regress. "Come with me?" Milo shouted from the shadows, struggling to his feet. Seraphina hesitated only a heartbeat. She lunged, yanking the phase drive from her tool belt and slamming it into the console. Panels flickered, metal screamed, and the portal shrank, then exploded outward, swallowing her whole. Cold, darkness. Every atom in Seraphina's body screamed as she fell through the void. Then, she landed hard, hands skidding across obsidian rock. The world around her shimmered, not quite real. Wild spires twisted toward a jade sky where twin moons danced. Seraphina rose, dizzy, battered, but alive. Then, voices. Figures moved at the edge of her vision, cloaked and cautious, weapons drawn. "You're not from here," a gravelly voice said. "Are you friend or invader?" Seraphina, catching her breath, forced a grin. "That depends. Does your universe have coffee?" The cloaked leader chuckled, lowering his blaster. "You'll need something stronger than that. Welcome to the Shatterlands, traveler. You've crossed a line that should never have been breached." As the portal shimmered and winked out behind her, Seraphina realized she'd just changed not only her future, but possibly every timeline's fate. Seraphina stood slowly, dusting obsidian grit from her lab coat. The figures around her moved with a predator's grace, faces shadowed under armored hoods, weapons that crackled with energy. The leader, a tall man with a scar slicing down one cheek, kept his blaster pointed level at her chest. Milo's voice echoed in her memory. "Trust no one on the other side, not until you know the rules." Swallowing her fear, Seraphina met the leader's gaze. "I'm not an invader," she said, forcing her voice steady. "I opened a portal by accident." "There are no accidents in the Shatterlands," the leader interrupted, glowering. He tossed a coil of wire at her feet. "Bind her. If she's a scout, the Enclave will want her alive." Rough hands twisted her arms behind her back, binding her wrists with the humming wire. Seraphina felt her pulse stutter. She'd solved equations no one on Earth could understand, but untangling real danger was another thing altogether. "Who are you?" she demanded, defiance sharp in her voice. The leader moved closer, eyes narrowing. "I am Rel Voss of the Outriders, and you just crossed a threshold no outsider has survived in a century." His second-in-command, a wiry woman with silver hair and a mechanical arm, leaned in. "She smells like quantum tech," she sneered. "We'll see what the Synod thinks." They marched her through the Wilderlands, a landscape fractured by time, where surreal ruins shimmered and strange echoes drifted on the jade wind. Seraphina glimpsed monuments looping endlessly back on themselves, alien plants flickering between old and new growth. She itched to take notes, but each stumble earned her a shove. "Rel," she whispered as the campfires appeared in the dusk, "why are you so afraid of outsiders?" He hesitated, then answered quietly, "Because the last traveler from another timeline brought the Nemesis with him." He nearly ended all of this. Seraphina's stomach dropped. She thought of the portal, the shattering energies, Milo's terrified shout. In the Outrider encampment, she was thrown into a holding cell, the humming wire replaced by a shimmering force field. The camp buzzed with suspicion. As night deepened, Rel returned, this time alone. He crouched by the force field. "If you want to survive, tell the truth at tomorrow's trial. The Enclave will offer you a bargain. Refuse, and you'll be erased, along with anything you love." Seraphina's mind raced. She'd crossed more than space and time. Now she faced the first of many impossible choices, and the stakes were far bigger than her own survival. Seraphina sat cross-legged on the cold floor, heart drumming in her ears. The alien force field hummed, throwing trembling shadows across her face. She tried to piece together everything she'd seen, the shifting landscape, the wary stares, the cryptic warnings of the outriders. What had the last traveler unleashed, and what was the Nemesis? Somewhere outside, rain sizzled as it struck the force field. Voices murmured in the darkness. She flinched as the barrier flickered, and suddenly the mechanical armed woman entered, tossing a packet through an opening in the shield. "Food. Eat while you can." "Wait," Seraphina called. "What happens at the trial? What am I up against?" The woman paused, her sharp eyes assessing. "You'll stand before the Synod of the Shatterlands. Speak true, they'll offer you a deal. Lie, you're erased. Or worse, cast into the zone outside time. You'll wish for erasure then." Seraphina shivered. She pressed, "And the Nemesis, what is it?" But the woman only shook her head. "Lie low, foreigner. Your questions won't protect you." As the camp quieted, Seraphina finally surrendered to exhaustion. She dreamed of swirling stars, Milo's desperate face, the writhing light of the portal. Then darkness parted. She awoke to footsteps and torchlight. Two outriders pulled her to her feet. Rel waited by the entrance, a grim mask in the dawn haze. He nodded to her, something like respect flickering in his eyes. "Ready?" Trying to be brave, she replied, "I will be." Escorted between lines of staring rebels, Seraphina was led into the Synod Hall, a structure built from fractured stone and glass, pulsing faintly with chronal energy. 8 figures, their faces hidden by luminous veils, sat in a crescent around a shallow pit. She stepped into its center, every instinct screaming to run, but her scientist's curiosity held her fast. The first veil spoke, voice like 1,000 echoes merging. "Seraphina Kai of Prime Earth, how did you breach the Shatterlands?" Seraphina stood tall. "With my portal technology. It was an accident, a miscalculation. I meant no harm. I only want to return home." A wave of murmured debate rippled. The second veil hissed, "Did you bring Nemesis from your world?" "I don't know what the Nemesis is," she answered honestly, "but I sensed something in the portal as I crossed. A presence." The Synod fell silent. The veils exchanged worried looks. After a pause, the first veil intoned, "We can return you to your origin, but only if you help us close all open portals. The stability of every timeline is at stake. There is no refusal." Seraphina swallowed hard. The pit in her stomach deepened, but she sensed a shift. They didn't trust her, but they needed her skills. She nodded. "I accept, but I want my freedom and help." The hall erupted in uproar, but the first veil raised a hand. "Very well." As the Synod's light flickered, Seraphina glimpsed a shadow forming in the far wall, swirling, hungry, and not quite real. The Nemesis was listening. Outside, as Rel unbound her wrists, he murmured, "You did well, but the hard part starts now." Seraphina nodded, adrenaline burning away her fear. "Then let's save every timeline before it's too late." The Synod's verdict sent shockwaves through the Outrider encampment. Seraphina was free, but she was now bound by duty to every world she'd ever dreamed of studying. As she followed Rel through rows of shadowed tents and holographic maps, the weight of it pressed on her. One wrong move, and millions, billions could pay the price. They arrived at a makeshift command center. The walls pulsed with chronal circuitry, and transparent screens showed timelines laced with red fractures. The silver-haired woman, who finally introduced herself as Vera, regarded Seraphina warily but without the old hostility. "You'll need a crew," Rel announced. "You don't know the Shatterlands, and these breaches are growing." Seraphina nodded, mind racing. People with skills and something to lose. As if on cue, 3 figures entered. A burly engineer named Bram with a voice like grinding gears, Lynn, a quiet, sharp-eyed medic who saw things others missed, and Tal, a thin, jittery data slicer who seemed more comfortable with machines than people. Rel barked, "You all volunteered. Tell her why." Bram shrugged, grease stains on his hands. "Portal tore my family's timeline apart. If Nemesis gets loose, it'll finish what it started." Lynn spoke softly, "I've seen temporal decay up close. I want to stop others suffering like those I couldn't save." Tal fidgeted, eyes darting to Seraphina. "I can find the breaches. Write code, predict jumps. No one survives in the Shatterlands alone, not anymore." Seraphina glanced at Rel. "And you?" He pulled aside a curtain, revealing a personal arsenal of relics from ruined worlds. I know too much to do nothing, and you'll need someone who doesn't flinch. With her crew assembled, Seraphina's sense of hope sharpened. She spent the next hours poring over holomaps with Tal, plotting the biggest temporal quakes. There, Tal pointed, a new breach, northwest quadrant. Nemesis energy signature, strong. Vira handed Seraphina a compact device. Portal anchor. Piggyback it onto your phase drive and you can stabilize an open breach, if you survive. Seraphina slipped it into her coat, steeling herself. Let's move. Under the strange moons, they loaded up an old battered hovercraft, engines coughing to life. As the team sped toward their first mission, Seraphina's doubts twisted inside her, but she forced a grin for the others. This is what I was born for. As they neared the breach site, the jungle shimmered around them. Bram's scanner bleeped frantically. Plum-purple lightning arced above the trees, and something darker moved within the rippling air. Lynn braced herself. Whatever's coming, we face it together. Seraphina gripped the anchor, ready. She had no idea what waited on the other side, but for the first time, she didn't feel alone. The real battle for the timelines had begun. The hovercraft ground to a halt at the edge of a mangled forest, its silhouette flickering in and out of reality. Time fractures laced the trees. Some trunks snapped, then reknitted and cracked again, locked in endless loops. The air buzzed with a tension Seraphina felt in her teeth. Tal tapped on a worn datapad. The epicenter's just ahead, through the distortion. My readings say time's moving at triple speed in there, then halving, over and over. Bram shouldered his plasma rifle, muscles tense. Don't touch anything that looks off. Lynn checked her medkit, nerves masked by calm. You good, Dr. Kai? Seraphina nodded, holding the portal anchor. If her calculations were right, the device could sink the quantum field long enough to seal a breach. But any mistake might scatter them across countless realities if they survived at all. Rel tightened his gauntlets, leading the way. Eyes open. Nemesis loves to hide in plain sight. They pushed into the distortion. Every step felt wrong. A second too slow or too quick. Lynn gasped as a vine aged, crumbled, and sprouted anew at her feet. Bram muttered curses, swinging his rifle at shadows that might not even be real. A cry split the air. The team spun to see Tal caught in a loop, falling endlessly, limbs contorted, his scream repeating. Seraphina's pulse raced. She dove forward, yanking Tal free, her phase drive humming as she tuned its settings. With a jolt that stung her fingers, Tal tumbled into her arms, gasping. Thanks, he stammered, shaking with fear. That thing, something in the breach, tried to pull me apart. Ahead, a jagged tear shimmered like liquid glass. Inside, a storm of black and crimson energy gathered. There, Bram breathed, awe and terror mingling. Nemesis is feeding. Vira's words echoed in Seraphina's memory. Attach the anchor and get out. Don't look back. Seraphina advanced, each step bending the world around her. Ghostly images flickered, alternate versions of herself, some broken, others triumphant. The pressure built until she feared she'd burst into 100 fragments. She pressed the anchor into the breach, set the quantum lock, and held her breath. The universe screamed. Time snapped back, too fast, then slow, then finally steady. The storm faded, the breach stitched tight with fizzing white light. The team stumbled out, Tal leaning on Bram, Lynn checking everyone for wounds. Rel grinned for the first time, one breach down, countless to go. Seraphina let herself laugh, exhaustion and hope mixing in her chest. We did it, together. But as they re-entered the hovercraft, Seraphina caught a flicker in the corner of her vision, a burning stare from the darkness where the breach had been. The Nemesis was not beaten. It was watching, waiting, and learning. She knew then, every victory would come at a price, and somewhere, in the shifting dark, the real test was still to come. The hovercraft rattled across the scarred plains, engines sputtering as the team tried to catch their breath. Night fell, bringing a chill that bit through even the thickest armor. Inside, Seraphina tinkered with the phase drive, hands shaking, part nerves, part adrenaline. Tal hovered at her shoulder, still pale, watching every movement. Are we safe, Dr. Kai? Tal asked, voice barely above a whisper. What if Nemesis follows? Seraphina didn't pause, eyes fixed on the swirling quantum field within her device. Nemesis doesn't follow lines. It follows chaos. We just need to stay a step ahead. Bram, ever the optimist, grunted, We'll outsmart it. We've patched one breach, the rest will fall. But Rel, sitting at the helm, didn't look convinced. Nemesis isn't a beast to hunt. It's the shadow in every mistake. The only reason we survived is Seraphina's tech, and maybe luck. Lynn nodded, glancing at a bloodied bandage on her arm. Luck won't last forever. Where's the next breach? Tal patched into the mainboard, fingers flying. Coordinates locked. Southwest, but a cascade of static cut him off. The holomap glitched, lines spasming, data swirling into fractals. Seraphina's stomach dropped as a chilling, digitized voice slithered through the speakers. You meddle with threads you can't comprehend. Timeline by timeline, you will learn. Your choices create me. The team stared at one another in horror. Bram swore, Lynn drew her medkit tight, and even Rel's hands tightened on the wheel. Seraphina gritted her teeth. It's adapting. The breaches aren't just happening. They're being provoked. Maybe even orchestrated. Vira's silhouette flickered on hollow, her eyes wide. Synod detected another rupture. This one's big. Temporal density off the scale. Be careful, Seraphina. The fate of all timelines may hinge on this. The hovercraft screeched to a halt at the edge of a twisted city. Silent towers folding in and out of the present. The breach pulsed at its center, surrounded by warped reflections of 1,000 possible futures. Lynn offered a quiet prayer as they stepped out. Tal's voice trembled. If Nemesis can speak to us now, what's stopping it from dragging us in? From changing us? Rel clapped his shoulder. We stand together. If it wants a fight, it's got one. Seraphina nodded. Let's show it what we're made of. They advanced, every sense alive to danger. Soon they'd learn. Nemesis wasn't just a threat. It was a mirror for every fear they'd ever tried to outrun. Inside the shattered city, every step felt heavy as memory and dread. Buildings rose, fell, and rebuilt themselves in blinks, as though the past, present, and future fought for control over every inch of ground. The breach's sickly red glow pulsed ahead, a wound in reality's skin. Seraphina motioned the team down a debris-strewn street, whispering, Stay close. Don't trust anything that looks like home. Nothing is real here. Tall, jittery, and clearly terrified, Tal clung to the phase drive signals, his datapad shaking in his grip. The breach isn't stable. It's cycling possibilities. If we time it wrong, it'll shift us somewhere we really don't want to go. Bram glanced into a flickering shop window and swore, face pale. Saw my mom in there. She's been dead 20 years. This place gets inside your head. Lynn reached for his arm, voice calm but urgent. Ignore it. Focus on the anchor. We're here together. As they neared the city square, the Nemesis's influence deepened. Shadows pulled at them, whispering secrets only they could hear. Seraphina heard her own voice in the darkness, older, colder, full of regret. Rel motioned for everyone to kneel behind a toppled statue. There, the breach, something else. A figure stood before the tier, shimmering between forms, sometimes a child, sometimes a withered elder, sometimes something entirely alien. Its eyes glowed the color of old blood. At last, it intoned, voice echoing with all their fears. The Voyager arrives. Do you know what you truly are, Seraphina Kai? Your invention is the needle that sews worlds together and rips them apart. Seraphina shuddered but stood tall. I didn't create you. You feed on what's broken. Well, I'm here to fix it. The Nemesis shifted, amusement clear in every twisted flicker. Every patch breeds a new crack. Every healed wound splits something else open. How many futures will you erase trying to save your own? Bram growled, readying his rifle. Enough talk. Seraphina, now's your shot. Seraphina charged the anchor, tuning the phase drive to lock onto the breach. But the Nemesis laughed, sending a wave of doubt and terror through all of them. Vira's face flashed in Seraphina's mind, abandoned, lost, gone in a timeline she'd never know. Was she already too late? Lynn grabbed her shoulder. Whatever you do, don't give up. If you can't believe in the tech, believe in us. Swallowing the fear, Seraphina slammed the anchor into the breach. Time warped, the ground shaking. For a brief moment, all their realities overlapped. Seraphina saw herself failing, saw endless worlds falling to Nemesis. But through the chaos, she felt her team's hands steady her, their courage pushing back the darkness. White light engulfed the square. The breach hissed shut, the Nemesis recoiling, swirling into the cracks of the city like smoke. Panting and shaken, the team stood among the ruins. Seraphina looked around at her battered friends. We made it, she whispered, relief and uncertainty in her eyes. But it's getting stronger, and now it knows we're a threat. Rel nodded. So we hit back harder, fix more breaches, and when it comes for us, we'll be ready. But as they regrouped far above the haunted skyline, the night shimmered with thousands of tiny growing rifts. The battle for the timelines had only just begun. The city's wounds faded behind them, but in the hovercraft, anxiety hung thick. Seraphina could see it, fatigue etching deeper into Bram's eyes, Lynn's silence growing heavy, Tal obsessively cross-referencing breach data as if by sheer will he could outthink the Nemesis. Even Rel's confident posture seemed to slump. They were winning battles but losing strength, and somewhere in the dark between universes, Nemesis gathered its power. Tal's voice cut through the hum of the engines. "We've tracked the rift's pattern. They're not random. Nemesis is testing us, learning every time we act. The next one, it's in the core. If that breach is let loose, the timelines could fully collapse." Rel's jaw tightened. "We knew this was coming. When we face the core, there's no more second chances." Bram looked at Seraphina. "What about Milo? If we can find him, maybe he knows a weakness in Nemesis. He was there for the first breach, right?" A pang flashed across Seraphina's face, guilt, hope, and fear mixing. "I don't know where he is, but if Nemesis is playing with time, maybe he's not lost forever. Maybe. I can reach him." Lynn finally spoke. "You've grown, Seraphina. You used to think tech solved everything. Now you know how much you need us." Seraphina smiled weakly, her heart aching but proud. "This last battle, we all stand together, or we lose everything." Tal mapped a route toward the core, an impossible labyrinth crisscrossed by rifts surging and fusing in real time. Their hovercraft had to take detours around collapsing realities, sometimes plunging into alternate landscapes where the laws of physics barely held. The world flickered between endless rain and burning sunlight, deserts blooming into forests between blinks. Suddenly, a call rippled through Seraphina's phase drive, static warping into a voice. "Sarah? Don't let Nemesis win. I'm still here. Find the axis of convergence." "Milo," Bram whooped. "Told you he was out there." Tal recalibrated their course. "The axis is real. It's the intersection of every possible Seraphina. We reach that point, maybe we can cut Nemesis off at its source." Lynn gripped Seraphina's hand. "If there's any chance to get Milo back, we're with you, no matter what it takes." They pushed on, exhaustion fading behind purpose. At last, the core rose, a vast crystalline tower, every surface fracturing and reforming as realities passed through it. Shadows danced in its depths, rifts hissed like hungry serpents. Seraphina activated the portal anchor, this time binding it with a bit of herself, pushing faith and resolution into the code. The team linked hands, hearts pounding as they crossed the final threshold. Inside, reality unraveled. They could see every choice they'd ever made, and the price of every compromise. And at its heart, Nemesis waited, more powerful and cunning than ever, its shape flickering between all their deepest fears. Seraphina stared it down, unyielding. "You want to break us? Watch what humanity does together." The real fight for the fate of all timelines was about to begin. The core pulsed with impossible energy. The team's every sense stretched thin, bombarded by waves of memory, regret, hope, and the jagged scent of ozone. Nemesis stood before them, shifting and immense, its many faces turning toward Seraphina, familiar and alien, joy and terror mixed in every flicker. "You cannot win," it hissed, voice as endless as the void. "I am every failure, every fracture, every timeline torn by a desperate grasp for control. Surrender, and I will let you survive in the remnants." Bram spat at the shadow, defiant. "If you're every mistake, then you're also every lesson we ever learned. You can't beat that." Rel stepped forward, blaster raised, though he knew weapons were useless here. "We came with nothing but grit and each other. That's more than you'll ever have." Nemesis lashed out. The core flickered, tearing glimpses of other worlds at them. Lynn rescuing strangers in a timeline that had no hope, Tal growing old with a family he never met, Bram hugging children who only existed in alternate presence. Each vision stabbed at them, tempting, taunting, dragging at their wills. Seraphina's knees buckled. For a moment, she almost gave in to despair. What if I've only made things worse? Milo, everyone the timelines, maybe Nemesis is right. Lynn's gentle hand found hers, grounding her. "Look at what you've built, Sarah. This crew, this hope, we're not fighting alone anymore." Tal blinked back tears, steadying himself. "Don't trust what you see, Dr. Kai. Trust what you felt. What's real? That's what Nemesis can never copy." A rift opened, and Milo stumbled through, spectral but burning with determination. "You didn't fail, Sarah. You gave us a chance." He tossed Seraphina the core fragment she needed. The Axis, you have to bind it to your own timeline. Only someone who's crossed the worlds can close it. Nemesis recoiled, furious, hurling distorted shadows of Seraphina herself at the team. Regrets, doubts, all the pain she'd buried, manifest and monstrous. Rel shoved Bram aside, taking a blow meant for the engineer. We don't have time, do it! Seraphina gripped the fragment and anchor, code and emotion fusing into the portal. Every failure, every triumph, every lesson, she stitched them together with all her heart. You can't thrive on regret if we don't regret, she shouted, pushing humanity's hope and pain at Nemesis. We are the sum of both. That's what makes us whole. Nemesis howled, its form shattering in the brilliance of unity. The core began to stabilize, rifts drawing tight, but the void around them started to collapse. Milo's voice echoed, You've got to finish what you started, Sarah. But the cost may be everything, the team, your home, even your memory of us, if that's the price to make the timelines whole. With the world tearing apart, Seraphina squeezed her friend's hands. No matter what happens, thank you for everything. They stepped forward together into the heart of the Axis, ready to face the final sacrifice, whatever it might be. The Axis whirled around them, a storm of timelines and memories spiraling tighter and tighter. For a heartbeat, Seraphina felt the full weight of every life she could have lived, every joy and mistake, every lost hope and impossible dream. Beside her, Milo's hand was cool and real. Bram, Lynn, Tal, and Rel stood close, anchoring her to the present. Nemesis shrieked, shards of its presence trying to claw a way back in. Failed Seraphinas, worlds swallowed by regret, flickered at the edges of her vision. The urge to run, to hide, clawed at her, yet now she understood. Fear was part of hope, and pain was the twin of courage. She met her crew's eyes, each carrying their own battle scars. We do this together, she said softly. No one's forgotten, no one's alone. Give me your best memory, your strongest hope. Let's make something Nemesis can't touch. She reached for the Axis with her mind and heart. Bram pressed a memory into her palm, the feel of fixing his father's ship under fire. Lynn shared the echo of saving a child doomed in every other world. Tal, a vision of inventing a safe quantum toy for future generations. Rel, a silent promise to stand guard for the next traveler. Milo's hope was simple, Seraphina believing again, refusing to let darkness win. With all their strength, Seraphina stitched those hopes into the core fragment. The Axis pulsed, and across infinite timelines, every world flickered as one. She poured humanity's will into the breach, and as she did, Nemesis screamed and shattered, torn apart by unity, kindness, and the unbreakable power of second chances. The worlds collapsed inward. Seraphina glimpsed every self, every crew, every path, united for one breathtaking moment. Then all went white. When she opened her eyes, she was back at the Outrider camp. The sky was clear, the rifts gone. Her crew stood nearby, bruised, battered, but alive. Milo was with them, no longer a ghost, and even the Synod's veils shimmered with approval. Rel slapped her on the shoulder, grinning through tears. You did it, Kai. You truly did. Tal grinned, datapad already mapping probabilities. No more Nemesis signatures across any timeline. Lynn hugged Seraphina tight. Not just one future saved, all of them. Only Milo looked unsure. Quietly he asked, Do you remember everything, Sarah? Seraphina touched her phase drive, the core fragment still glowing inside. She smiled, tears shining. I remember enough. I remember what matters. Around them, the Shatterlands healed. Ruins grew lush with new life. The Synod offered peace, granting humanity the knowledge to travel safely across timelines, but with a stern warning. Never forget what you learned at the edge of existence. The cost, the courage, and the hope. That is what guards us. As the sun rose on this unified reality, Seraphina and her crew stood looking toward new horizons, a utopian dawn made from 1,000 second chances. And somewhere in every universe, the story of the Quantum Voyager inspired those who would one day travel even further, undaunted and unafraid.